Hey, you guys. So this week I talked to some really successful, really great professionals in their kind of 40s and 50s. And I wanted to address something that I see happening, which is getting undervalued even when you have 20, 30 years of experience. Why does that happen and what can you do to change it? So before we dive in, let me know if you are there. Let me know what decade you're in, what stage of career you are in, because even if you're not in your 40s, even if you're not in your 50s, this might still apply to you. Some of the strategies are very similar, and it's something to keep in mind. So let me know if you are there. Let me know what you are facing right now in terms of your career. What's your next challenge that you're working on? So what I saw with some of the people, hey honey, how's it going? What I saw with some of the people I talked to this week, but also in the past, is that I see a lot of people in their 40s, 50s, even in their 30s who have been really successful career-wise. They have plenty of experience, sometimes decades of experience, and they've climbed the ladder. They've done a lot of things right on paper. They have nice degrees. They've even worked for some big companies or big organizations. They look really good on paper, and yet they often find themselves in a place where either they're stuck in a kind of toxic work situation, dealing with a lot of office politics that are just undermining their health and their confidence, and they're just not happy, or they're just getting bored with what it is that they're doing. Like, they feel like they're not challenged anymore, but they've hit a glass ceiling and they can't seem to move up to the kind of positions where they would really be able to be making decisions, where they would really be able to be creative and do something that really matters. And I even see some people who are stuck at this age competing with others who are much younger and who are willing to work for much less money. So that's something else I see sometimes, where I talked to someone just this week who, despite having tons of experience, award-winning professional and everything, was still getting stuck competing for jobs just like he was doing back in his early 20s. And in fact, other 20-year-olds were getting the jobs instead of him. And it's like, what is going on? Does no one appreciate real experience anymore? Does no one appreciate someone who really knows their craft, or has really developed their skill set? And so when this happens, the worst thing that you can possibly do is just keep spinning those wheels, keep competing, keep running the rat race, because if that's what you're doing it all wrong. You should not be, after 10, 20, 30 years of experience, you should not be competing against people with less. So what you need to do instead is, number one, you need to be clear on what it is that you want. Even if you're struggling right now, which I know is the case, there's sort of two groups of people in their 40s and 50s. You have the ones who have done quite well, they're feeling quite okay, but they're just kind of bored and unfulfilled, and they know that if they keep living like this, they're going to reach their deathbed and kind of feel like, I could have done more. And then there's another group of people who are actually going backwards in their careers. They actually feel like it was easier to get jobs in their 20s or 30s compared to now in maybe their late 30s, 40s, or 50s, because there are a few high-level positions, and they're just competing against younger people for lower-level jobs. So let me know which camp you feel like you might be in. Let me know what questions you have. What you need to do, even if you're in this group that is feeling really undervalued, that's getting really frustrated, that feels like you're competing and no one is giving you jobs, the worst thing you can do is, like I just said, keep running that hamster wheel and just keep trying. You need to get clear on what is it that you want. You need to recognize your value, even if the market's not recognizing it right now. You need to recognize that, okay, you've come this far, you're at a stage where you can build on that. You can accomplish things that other people can't even dream of, because you have already had all of this success in your life. And now it's time to decide on a career and life on your terms. You don't need to compete. You have the experience. You've done so many things. What is next? This is your turn to decide. And if you don't decide now to get life on your terms, to accomplish all these big dreams you might have been thinking about, I don't want to put this in a mean way or a depressing way, but life is moving, and we're all going to die, and you're getting to that phase where it's time to do all of those things that you have been putting off, or that you keep thinking, okay, one day, one day, one day. I mean, if you don't do it now, it's not going to happen. Like, this is like almost like last chance kind of thing. And the great thing is you have this experience, you have everything you've done in the past that you can leverage towards accomplishing something really, really great. The issue I see that's stopping a lot of people from creating that legacy plan and really giving themselves permission to dream and go for what they really truly want is, number one, a lot of times you feel like, well, I've built everything that I've done up until now. Will I have to lose that if I go in a new direction, or if I go for something bigger? Where some people haven't failed that much, like they've been so successful, there's that fear of, well, if I do something really, really crazy or really big, what if I fail at it? And they feel like it'll undermine all the success they've had until now. But the way you should see it is that all of the success you've been having, that should be what leads you. That should be what you can leverage towards creating those big dreams. That is even more of a reason to go for something bigger, because you have been so successful. Why not you? Why should someone else, younger and less experienced, go and make those dreams happen? This is your time. You have the experience. You're someone who can actually make it happen. But first, you have to decide what is it that you want, and you have to give yourself permission to stop competing and to actually set that goal and do it. So that's the first thing, creating that legacy plan, understanding what is it that you truly want and committing to that. And then the second thing is, a lot of people are stuck in a certain job market. So some people have been in the same job market for decades. It's worked out really well for them. They've gotten positions. But a lot of the time, when they get to that stage, they need to switch to a new market. Either because where they were before, they've already done it, they're ready for something new. There's just not enough learning happening where they've been. So they need to go somewhere new, but they don't know how to get into a new market because they've been for so many years in a different one. So they need to know how to, number one, choose a new target market, and number two, how to access it. Because it can be a bit depressing when you have all that experience and you have this great network to then realize, oh wait, nobody knows me in this new network. It's almost like I'm starting off from scratch. So an example of this, just going back to what we were discussing with legacy, I had a client called Ninke. She was in her 40s, and she'd done a lot of great things for her community, for the people around her. She had done a lot of great career successes. However, there were still a lot of things holding her back in terms of society, in terms of just the things that are fed to us our whole lives, that this is what you need to do, this is how you live a responsible life, this is what you can and cannot do. And then when she went through the goal mapping that we do together, that's where she realized how, even though she was everyone knew her as a liberated person, but actually when she went through this, she realized how much more potential she actually had, how much she'd been holding herself back. And then she realized what her true goals actually were. And when we broke them down, it turned out they weren't as far away as she previously thought. And then to the second point, when it comes to targeting that new market, this is something we just saw on our hidden job market training this week. So I have one client who's been in academia for years and years and years, and she has some contacts there and whatnot, but the market she really wants to get into is not academia, and she has zero contacts. So this is where, once she knew how to pinpoint that new market and how to do that outreach to the market, so how to, number one, find them using tools like social media and LinkedIn, and even her existing network, finding those advocates that she didn't know that she had, and then leveraging all of that to be able to message them with the exact right messages that would be magnetic, so that they need to answer her and they develop that relationship. So those are the problems I'm seeing with more experienced professionals. Let me know what your experience has been. And if you're younger, I'm sure you're watching this and going, how can that be? My problem is no experience. How can it be that even when I get to my 40s and 50s, I still have this kind of problem? But there are different problems for different phases of your career. The worst thing you can do is just keep doing what you've been doing and not recognize that the landscape has changed. The internal landscape in terms of what you've accomplished has changed, and what your next goals are but also the external context, because things are moving really, really quickly. The market changes very, very fast, and a lot of people are still doing applications, doing the job hunt the same way that they used to do in the past, which doesn't work anymore. So if you're feeling like you are really experienced but not that fulfilled, and you know that there's more potential out there for you, and you wish you had a legacy, and you know that the way things are going right now, you're not going to reach you're not going to reach your highest potential, you're not going to reach what you're really capable of, send me a message and we'll discuss what action steps you need to take so you can get yourself on track. When you do this, things can happen really, really quickly. I had someone else in one of my trainings this week who just reached out, went from basically being a mid-level professional. Now she's gonna be a head of communications for a major organization, just like that, just by implementing some of these techniques. So it's amazing what can happen. You can be stuck in a rut for years, and as soon as you start implementing a couple of these key steps, you can become like her, become director of communications for an organization. And she's also heading to Bali to do a yoga teacher training that she's been wanting to do for years and years. And all of these different pieces can actually start happening for you. You can start really achieving the life that you've been dreaming of for so long. When you uncover that value, you know how to communicate that value, and you create that actual legacy plan. Okay, guys, nice seeing you as always, and speak to you soon.